Hello everyone, it's Nick Lawson with cdc-TakeCharge software, and today we are going to look at an application that I wrote quite some time ago, as a matter of fact, which is called a TakeCharge Note Organizer. The reason we're looking at this older application, which was written in version 5 of Alpha software, is that I've been getting a lot of questions and queries lately about the best way to fetch records both in bound formed objects and in xDialog. And on the xDialog side, how to take and use multiple controls to manage that search. Well, this application actually addresses both of those issues. So let's kind of go through it real quick so you can see how it works. That way you understand what the code is trying to accomplish. Here's our form. Of course, we have our typical menu buttons: new, edit, save, convert to other modules within the application, print, export, delete, and close. Over here on the left, we have a list of books. Now, this list is not part of a set. It's actually a variable that points to a table and returns just book names. Groups are the available groups, unique values under the book selection. So under help, I just have a help file. Under my journal, I've got family issues, future thought, general date, notes, life issues, and work issues. All right. Over here, once you selected a book and you selected a group, now all your records work. So basically the way it was working here is under work issues, I was able to set up a daily journal which recorded everything that I was working on any given day, and issues that I have as reminders for stuff to do the next day. Under help, I used it to actually write the help file for the TakeCharge application and the different modules that are in it. Under study notes was a book that I had set up for my daughter to take and record and keep her notes for her college courses. So it's pretty versatile, and it allows you to take and have all kinds of categories or books and categories and pages for each of those, and it organizes it very simply and very neatly. Now, that's all stuff that's fetching records bound to the current form, which is bound to the underlying table jotted. The xDialog is under export. So if we click it, we get an xDialog box. At the top, we have values that we're pulling from the hard drive itself, what path we're on, the size of the drive, and the available free space. We're able to let the user select in a drop-down what type of file export they want. They're able to take and change the default folder that it's saving to, and they're able to change the file name that is automatically assigned based on groups and pages. After they set up how they want it to look and what file type, then they're able to take and say, give me the current note only, the one selected, or all notes in a category. So in this case, all help would be written out to one giant PDF file. Finally, you can save it and print it, or you can save it and email it. All pretty good stuff. So we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 controls on one dialog box. And we'll look at how that works here in just a minute. Okay, now we're not actually going to take and run it. So we're going to take and close where we're at and open up our control panel and go down here to our organizer form. Okay, now to start with, when the form loads, we have to take and have code in our onInitiate. Here we're using table external records get, and we're pointing the jotted books to return the book names, which is our first variable in the upper left of our form. And we're ordering it by record number because who cares? It's actually entered, but you could order it by name if you want it to be alphabetical or however you want. Doc view is a variable which uses table external records get and points to jotted, which is actually the underlying table. but we're doing it this way because we're able to take and return unique values very easily. So here's the records get value for that. And then we take and have two watch variables, one for the jotted books and the other one for our actual jotted records. Finally, what we do is we take and fill out the little box that's above our form. Let me show it to you right here, which displays information about the current selection or query that's going on. Okay? Now, let's look at the onChange event for JBooks. When you select the book in the list, then DocView, which is another variable, calls up Jotted and looks for all values that match the book name that you selected for var JI books. It takes and runs the display or the watch variable. The records are redisplayed on the screen. Then our little text box is recompiled so that the user can see, based on their selection of books, what is now available to them in the way of how many books or categories, the last edit for the one selected, and a message box that makes it look all nice and pretty and formatted. Next, we want to take and look at what happens when the user selects category. Again, we have to take and select a value. So we're taking the category ID and assigning it to a variable book name. Then we do a record count. We find all the records in Jotted that match. Then we take and do a table max to take and bring back the maximum revision date, and we write those values to our little text box. Now, when the person actually fetches a page from the browse on the right, here what we do is we take and we grab the record number, we open the table, we fetch that record, and then we fill in our variables based on the values out of the table. We close that table, and we take and set our box. Now here again, notice that even though this is the underlying table, I'm using the actual table open method. That does not have to happen here that way. It could be table current. I just didn't do it this way. Okay, now next, and this is a lot we're going through, and we're going through it fast. On our button that takes and shows all. When you've done a lot of querying and fetching of records, you may want to see all your records at some point. So by clicking the Show All button, we take and bring back all the records, so we cancel all of our queries, and then we take and rerun it exactly as we did on onInitiate. Set our watch variable, our records are redisplayed. And finally, we have our xDialog code. Here, we set our variables at the top. We build our file type list, which is just a manual build because I know what I want. We set some values for our variables so that they're defaulted and are available for the user to use without having to make any changes. Then we take and build our actual box. Now if you remember, that dialog looked pretty complicated, but in reality it was very simple and there's not much to it. There's your code basically from top to bottom. Simply all we do is once we call up our box, we set the background style, we set our different regions, and then we insert our controls between those regions. The rest is just a matter of code running after the user makes a selection. And here's that code down here. Now, there's quite a bit to discuss at this point, and we really don't have time to do all that. So if you want to see this code in action with a complete description, go on over to our blog at cdc-TakeCharge.wordpress.com, and it'll all be laid out where you can copy and paste and use it as you will. Keep in mind, variables and object names are based on the forms and design that I have done here. If you try to recreate this or use it in something you're already doing, you will have to change it to match your variable names and your objects. Thanks again, folks, as always, for stopping by. Please go over to the web to take and see this in greater detail, and have a great day.